What's up, guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian if you happen to be new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. There's a discussion that's been going on in my head, and honestly, I just wanted to put it out into the universe, so you guys feel free to weigh in on your thoughts on this specific subject. There's some good stuff to talk about here. There's also probably some things that it might frustrate you, but overall, when it looks at the MMO, when you look at the struggles the new MMO has, and you look at the fact that we haven't got any news on Blue Protocol in well over a year, here we are. Well, and that well over a year is more focusing on the game. We did get some announcements and some publishing deals, some news of that late in 2021. But if you're like me, we haven't seen updates on this game in quite a while. But I want to shift to thoughts about that. Not the game itself, but in terms of the game's content. And when it comes down to launching an MMO, one of the key aspects of it, one of the key struggles that MMO will find is that people will burn through the content. And while I don't hope that Blue Protocol follows the Lost Ark model, especially heavily dipping into pay-to-win ideologies here, but we do know Blue Protocol is going to be a free-to-play MMO. And when we look at the MMORPG genre itself, there's a couple of thoughts that I've got rattling around my brain, and honestly, this is probably going to frustrate some of you, obviously, as we wait for news and information like that, but I want to explore it in terms of what it could mean for the future of this game. First and foremost, we've talked a little bit about the Unreal. We see that Ashes of Creation has upgraded to Unreal 5, and that honestly, I kind of hope is on the table for Blue Protocol. I think at this point, with the delays, with their recruiting, with the restructure, I know there are people out there that believe this game is canceled. They could very well be right. I am not in that category. I honestly think that the game is just delayed. And a delayed game, especially in an MMO, could prove to be a strength, but, and here's the real big old butt and the big old booty in the room, is it's going to come down to a couple things. First and foremost, the launch and the globalness of this game. When they announced Blue Protocol, they've announced controller support, and they also announced that it's going to be a global release, meaning it's coming to the world. But I don't think this is going to be coming to the world all at the same time. And that actually could be a big strength to the game itself. And that's the parallel to Lost Ark. Lost Ark launched, it was able to refine itself. In fact, if you actually go look back at the launch of Lost Ark and the subsequent years, the game struggled. It really was having a hard time. They worked a lot of things, worked out a lot of bugs, and now it's like the biggest MMORPG in the world. Like, obviously you could say some areas and you start breaking it down by region, you do you, right? But when you look at the numbers, it has been a massive success, namely because it launched with a lot of content, and also a lot of content that's already been developed. Now, I like that I can play like Final Fantasy XIV with those in Japan and with those in Europe, and so I wouldn't necessarily advocate for that kind of like segregation in terms of the game itself. As updates roll out, I would like to be included in those. But here's the counterpoint, and this is what's been kind of rattling around in my brain. The counterpoint ends up being a couple things. If they're able to launch and in Japan work out issues, continue to kind of refine the product, get that content kind of worked out, obviously you're going to continue to build up hype, right? So all of a sudden you start looking at a scenario, and again, I would say the fact that we haven't heard anything at this point in this year, maybe 2024 seems to be more of a practical reality in terms of the launch of this game. So let's explore this idea for a second. They launch in 2024, they work out a year's worth of content and issues, and then boom, 2025 global release. Yes, that means we probably wouldn't have access to it, but that's another year of actual information that would be covered, news, updates, feedback, any kind of struggles that they kind of would run into with a launch and whatever was missing in terms of that content, and then bada bing, bada boom, check it out. All of a sudden, then they start going global, and then all of a sudden, the model of the MMORPG launching with a year, maybe more of experience, actual real world server running experience, player feedback experience, testing out ideas on paper and putting them into practice experience all gets put together. And then ultimately it's going to be something that I think I would like to explore more, right? And that's where, while I would be frustrated, like why I would want to play the game, and that's something that, you know, from a content creator perspective, I've done in the past. I've been able to go and play games that have only released in certain countries, but that seems to be the model of the MMO. That seems to be the success model of the MMO, and content is and seems to be forever king. Having things to do, having things to play, having things to grind would be the absolute bee's knees, I guess, for lack of a better term. I literally just drew a blank, and for whatever reason, bee's knees is what popped into the brain. So we're going to roll with it. So now we look at essentially kind of that staggered release and the hype that it builds and the content that it delivers. And I think essentially, if Bandai Namco is able to get Blue Protocol into a workable state, which, like, from what we've seen of the game so far, people have been able to play it as a part of these closed beta tests well over a year ago. It was a playable game. Like, they had a lot of things, they made a lot of changes, they got a lot of good feedback, and they were working it. But obviously, when it comes down to a closed beta test in terms of content, it's going to feel lacking, and that can be something that these games struggle with. I think the free-to-play aspect will also be something that a lot of players will be trepidatious on when we start to talk about the overall health and well-being of the MMO. Like, just the fact that I brought up Lost Ark, some of you have already either dismissed it and because out of frustration, or maybe have gotten excited because that means that it's going to be a business model that's going to work for your lifestyle. No subscription, here you go, here's the model. And that ultimately will bring up bigger discussions that the genre and people who are fans of the genre are going to have, and they're going to have to figure out. And it's going to be overall something just generally interesting to explore and to experience. And while we wait for real news on Blue Protocol, while we hunger and search and analyze any kind of posting by Bandai Namco at this point, it is, I think, safe to assume that we're probably not going to see information about this game in the short term. And that's a bummer. That's a bummer. This game looks incredible. From what I've seen, it plays incredible. From those I've talked to who've played it, are very excited for this game in its future. And still we wait. We do know that another free-to-play MMO semi-game is coming out, Tower of Fantasy, here in the next like couple of months. And so there is going to be a drive. There is going to be something that I think a lot of people are looking forward to in terms of what Blue Protocol could mean and what it could mean for its future. And that's just something I want to talk to you guys about today. Now, I do have a dedicated Blue Protocol channel specifically, Ginger Blue Gaming right now. Obviously, not a lot to talk about over there. I figured I'd just kind of sit down and give you guys an update over here on Prime about my thoughts about it overall, especially as we wait, especially as we have it, you know, as we just hunger for news and information about the state of the MMO, about the state of Blue Protocol. And yeah, I wish I would look forward to your thoughts on this one. I would guess I would be very interested in see, like, if you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing. Overall, I think the emotional feeling that I see from a lot of players is they're so frustrated that they've already kind of checked out, and they said that they're done. But with all due respect to, like, gamers who say they're done, all of a sudden you start building up that hype, you start building up that excitement, and I would say that when they say they're done with the game that hasn't even been released, is that they're probably done actively following it, and they're just going to wait until Bandai starts actually pushing out content to each and every one of us. Anyway, guys, I appreciate your time today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and the discussion. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on this. We can explore this in future videos if needed as well. Sound off below. Even if you don't know what to say, you can always drop an emote. If you're a member here on the channel, you can always drop an emote. You know, one of those member emotes. I love seeing those. And yeah, I appreciate that. You know, links and stuff for support are all, you know, down below if you guys choose to do it. Otherwise, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for it, and I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to Destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh yeah.